Unfortunately, though, this was being talked about on all these boards, and we're going to 8chan.
It's a direct line to Donald Trump's rhetoric. A direct line.
No, I think Donald Trump buys into the rhetoric and spouts it as a president on Twitter. But let me just say, I think this kid was well aware of this. This was too well thought out. There are people that, like you said, that go down the rabbit hole online. Let me just say this. They don't need Donald Trump to point this out to them. Being honest, he is, though, too much of a figurehead that is echoing it, and that is dangerous. He's too important. So when that kid says, you know, I've been feeling this way all along, and now Donald Trump feels this way too, that is a problem, or any politician. But I got to tell you, he's only exacerbating it, and it's unfair, and I want to talk about this too, how the media is jumping on it politically, and obviously we know that's going to happen, but the candidates, no Epstein, no Venezuela, no Flint, Michigan water. I mean, what are all the topics we're not talking about?
Well, this thing just happened. The country has a problem with going to the newest news story, and that's also part of Donald Trump because he fires 1,000 news stories at you a second, especially if there's a bad news story on him. He'll throw everything against the wall to change the news. And he also is a person that has to be in the news every day. So if the news isn't good about him, he needs to change the story. And then if the story isn't about him, he needs to be the center. So we're stuck in this like wrestling match with the president who has no one knew how powerful the president's bully pulpit was until now. And now we're really getting to see it. There's no place for a cocky, arrogant president like this. Even if he was a good president, there's just no place for it. The country's too divided. You need somebody who is a little bit calm, who brings people together and is a little bit humbler. Obama took a lot of shots. He could have stood up like Trump and he could have fired back at a million different people a million times, but he didn't. And I think that's key for having a country that is so hostile run somewhat homogeneously. Well, you know, because you can't throw gasoline on this fire, and that's what Trump does every time. And then he loves standing by it. He lights the fire and he's like,
yes, he gets warm on it.
This feels good.
No, listen, as a Trump fan, I can't disagree with that. One thing we have not gotten used to with this guy as a country is we've had such monotone, same presidents, like you said, all in that same shell, because there's a school that you have to abide by on what's being presidential, right?
100%.
And here comes a guy that's not, and no one's used to that, and we don't like it. A whole bunch of people do, a whole bunch of people don't, but part of it is we've never had this guy who's such a big mouth. Because you're right, Obama, I'm sure, wanted to say all sorts of shit he didn't say.
Yeah,
and George Bush probably did.
It works for Trump, right? It got him elected. It keeps him in office.
We love it and we hate it.
Yes, it's just like the Howard Stern. It's just like the Howard Stern. The people that hate him watch twice as long. I'm stuck on these news channels and reading all these stories and here on this podcast because I hate the guy.
Well, here's the other problem.
I'm fueled by it.
It's making them a ton of money. CNN, Jeff Zucker said, just keep doing it. It doesn't matter. They want Trump in. Let me just tell you this.
Trump's great for TV.
If Elizabeth Warren wins, do you know what the ratings plummets are going to be? There's nothing interesting there. She's all policy. Where's going to be the scandal on Elizabeth Warren? How she wore her man's suit? I mean, what are we going to talk about?
For years.
Her hairdo?
For years, you would have the good shows on TV, and then it would roll into the news, and everybody in America would be like, boring, right?
We would hate
now
it.
the news has collided with reality TV, and the news is so happy to be as famous as they thought they always deserved to be, and now we're in this new thing where, people watch more news than they do regular television
10
shows.
years ago, there is no Brian Stelter. There may be a Cuomo or there may be a Lemon, but they're 4 deep on all these channels. You know what I mean? The primetime lineup for news. Imagine that.
I don't think they're 4 deep, dude. We're talking about 50 deep. Because you got to think of the panels and all of that.
Absolutely.
They have, at CNN, they probably have, let's say 20% of the big wigs in the Democratic Party are employed or on the payroll in some way. Same thing at Fox on the
including
reverse.
the CIA.
Yeah, and so they are active players because they are paying the people who have the bully pulpit and who have America's ear. So they have huge influence, these companies, and they're yielding it now.
There's a segment of society, like people addicted to soap operas, like people addicted to whatever their show of choice is. There are people that are addicted to cable news. Thank you, Ted Turner. You unleashed a monster. It'll never end. 24-hour news cycle. Jam down your throat. Jam down your throat. Jam down your throat. And if you didn't hear it the first time, 15 minutes later, you're going to hear it. And you're going to hear it 100 times if you leave it on all day. The good news, the bad news, all of it. And that's got to desensitize people as well.
And that also influences, I think, some of the people in society.
Part of the problem.
That's where the mental health plays in. And that's where the connection is. If you're a person like Caesar Soyak, who we're actually talking about today because because he got sentenced to 20 years. If you're a person like Caesar Sorek, you're watching the news and you're maybe have a couple little mental health issues there. We're not sure.
It's
and
a tipping
you
point.
can become influenced, and then you can, this is a person that couldn't send off a real bomb, right? He sent fake bombs. He's going to do 20 years for that. And we can talk about whether or not that's just or not. But what's fascinating about it, I think, is these news are so powerful that they actually influence people to commit crimes on occasion.
Oh, absolutely. Again, you can't be bombarded with any thought. That's like a torturous thing. So if that's going to be your choice and you have that on all day and you're feeding off of those people, and by the way, I have a buddy that he's a Trump guy, but he watches more CNN and MSNBC to piss himself off than Fox. He doesn't even watch Fox like that. And I'm thinking, how nutty is that? He wants to be mad. He puts it on to get angry. Like, you don't even watch Fox News at all, I imagine. You don't need to get pissed off.
I am not a big Fox News watcher,
right.
but I
You're
also
a
don't
CNN
watch
guy,
much
though.
MSNBC. I am a CNN, New York Times, Washington Post guy. I guess that's kind of where I get my views from. I'm definitely influenced
Probably
by
the
that.
majority of people in your boat.
But now I have a friend of mine who's a big CNN watcher, but he also watches Fox. So there is the crossover viewer. And then what I've noticed is this. What's fascinating is a lot of people that debate me online, those people are Fox viewers. But one time I had a tweet, for instance, that was featured on CNN, and all the Fox guys saw it. So they were watching CNN. I think there are a lot of Fox viewers that go back and forth.
Yes, I think there are a lot of people that do that. Younger people mainly, not the old people. Before we go to break, I want to touch on a couple things, and we didn't even talk about Dayton, so we'll do that maybe on the flip side.
Yeah, we didn't even get into the NRA yet.
Yeah, so we got more to talk about, and I figured this was going to be the lion's share of the end of episode number 7, by the way, Ruthless Politics. But just let me give you a quick before we go. Hold on, Jesse, 1 second. Give me 1 minute. Before we do that, I want to just do a couple of bullet points that I learned also about this kid, real quick. He posted the manifesto on 8chan. Everybody knows 8chan's now been shut down. We're going to talk about that as well. Here's the thing they're not talking about. He was bullied in high school. And I'm bringing this up because there's a diametric difference again in the other shooter who was the bully. He was bullied in high school, sat alone on the bus, standoffish, nobody knew him. Often picked on because of how he spoke and his hand-me-down clothes. Very interesting considering he had money that they said that about him with hand-me-down clothes. All spoke negatively of him. He ran away at 16 years old, came back immediately. So that was his only brush with the law. He seems to be a good kid. The other thing about him that I found out was, or also about this whole situation, we don't know what the gun is yet on this. They said AK-47. They backed off of that. Looked a lot like an AK-47. It looks like it. They have not gone on record, and the other one they have. That's why I'm bringing it up. There are some very interesting differences. This boy, like you said, was not so crazy. He also, as far as the video games, and we can take it to break here, in that manifesto, he made a point of saying there's nothing wrong with going after low-lying fruit. Kill whoever you can kill. Do what you got to do. He says, and this was the interesting quote he had. He says, you don't have to be a big COD hero, Call of Duty. Yeah. You don't have to be a big COD hero and go after the tough kills. Like, just mount as many as you can.
Well,
I
think that was the genius of his attack, if it is, even though it's a horrible, evil genius, that will stick around. That's the thing that will be promoted on the internet. That's the thing that the white supremacists and the violent people will latch onto, and that we'll see again in other shootings. But what is fascinating about it is this. Some children and some people can feel so alone, right, that even though they're wealthy, just because they've been handed down some clothes or they've been made fun of in school, surely he could have asked his parents,
an incel.
Told them what's going on,
sure.
and he could have handled this another way. But there's just a real disconnect there, and they need to do something in schools and parenting to find these kids that feel that disconnected, where there's so nothing to lose that they'll commit a crime with that. And that's what this kid had. He's like, you know what? My life at this point, I've got nothing to lose, and I'd rather make a point than try to build a life from here.
We're going to take it to break right now. Final point. He was not planning on he was planning on dying in this. He did not want to get captured or caught. It happened by accident. And the way I read it, he actually got in his car and sat there. And when the cops had him cornered, he came out of his car, hands up. No shooting, no incident. He just gave himself up. But in that manifesto, that was not his plan. He wanted to go down in a hail of bullets.
The cops treated him like he was a donor to the police athletic league.
I saw
it was
that.
Ridiculously nice.
He looks like a sweet kid.